I've always been good at doing. This is really my 500th show in a row.
I mean, nobody cares. Nobody really cares.
Previous show.
Oh my God, here we go. You gonna tell her about your bankruptcy?
You want to see? I can tell you about my bankruptcies
Oh Lord,
back in
don't.
the day. You want to see my calendar too? I can show you my calendar. No,
Nice. Anything.
No. Oh my God, she's never gonna come back.
This is Byron Lazine, Nicole White, and today a special guest, CEO of the SmartMLS, Kathy Elson, on episode 106 of The Real Word. Kathy.
Oh, you're not even gonna let me?
Go for
Word
it.
is
Go
up.
for it, Nicole.
Okay, go ahead.
Do it.
Jeepers, it's like
Jump
you know
in
what?
there.
You guys enjoy this.
All right,
this
Nicole.
Visit,
well, you're getting walked out of here in cuffs after this episode anyway. So, Kathy, number one, thank you for being the third guest ever on The Real Word.
Ever.
You are, like I said, only the third guest in now the game here with Tom Ferry and the Broke Agent. Do you know the Broke Agent?
I do not.
On Instagram?
Ooh, you hear that? You hear that, BA?
Yeah,
She doesn't know who you are.
Nobody knows who you are, BA. The Broke Agent, I don't know, he's got like 200,000 followers on Instagram.
No big deal.
No, 200,001.
And one, you're going to jump on there, and then you know who Tom Ferry is.
Yes, I do.
I'd imagine.
Yep.
So you're in that mix. You're
Nice.
like,
Good
you're right
company.
there. So Kathy, again, she's the CEO of the SmartMLS, which is our MLS here in mine and Nicole's home state of Connecticut. We teased it out last episode. We said Kathy's coming on. We didn't even know Kathy. Just met Kathy.
We actually kind of bullied her, and
It was a lot of follow-up.
Yes, Byron was doing great with emails, and I don't think she actually called us back until she watched the podcast and realized.
I just happened to answer the phone when he.
It just happened to answer. I got her at the right time. I had some voice messages. Was my follow-up game strong or what?
It was awesome.
All right. So anybody that's looking to sell a house
Well,
up there,
but
follow-up
after
game.
watching the podcast, you now
Then
know why.
Then I had to come on. I was like, I guess I really have no choice whatsoever. So happy to be here.
Thank you very much. So if you missed episode 105, 104, or even previous episodes since really the news hit last year, we've been talking about the clear cooperation rule. This is
Although it wasn't always called that. I feel like it wasn't always
8.0. They call it 8.0.
Yeah.
It was kind of also like in real estate forums, like the coming soon rule, coming soon ban. It's been referred to as that.
many things. Yeah.
But this is a national association rule, and then and correct me if I'm wrong, every local MLS is adopting it and their version in the gray area of that.
Correct. Yep.
Right? So in your definition, let's just jump right into it if you don't mind. In your definition, what is high level the clear cooperation rule?
So high level, it's just ensuring that every property, every listing that is out there for public consumption is also in the MLS for professional consumption. We were having an issue where the public would see listings. They might see a street sign. They might drive down the road, call their agent, ask their agent to see, hey, can I see 127 Ajax? And then they go into the MLS and they're like, yeah, and then they go to 127 Ajax on Google. They try to see what they can find anywhere else, and they're like, well, what color is the sign? Try to get some clues who usually sells in that area, and then try to make some phone calls and do some quick talking to change the subject and get the information. So we want the professional to have all the information that the consumer has.
So yeah, and so basically making sure everything's listed on the MLS so we can have cooperation. Yep. And okay, and so what was happening, and we're not going to say any names, but what was happening maybe that made this rule come to be?
So this is a trend that started probably 5, 7, 8 years ago, right? So an agent learned somewhere that, hey, why don't you have listings that are coming soon and let people know that a property is going to be on the market in the next few weeks. You're in the process of taking pictures. You're in the process of refinishing the floors, cleaning up the kids' rooms, that sort of stuff, and just tease people and send it out in your newsletter, send out an email blast to other agents. Hey, keep an eye out on this. Then one person saw it. Then another person saw it. Then websites started popping up. And then all of a sudden, a percentage of the market wasn't on the MLS anymore. It was just on these emails. They were on Facebook pages, closed Facebook pages, open Facebook pages, groups, that come together that just talk about things, that all like-minded groups. So it was all taking away from the cooperation of the MLS, and the MLS is there for the sole purpose of cooperating with each other.
Right.
And that was having major issues on the major focus of the MLS.
Yeah, and so when we've talked about it, we're like, this doesn't impact us, like as a team here in
No,
Connecticut.
again, we were talking about it earlier, and I said if you go even like 2 podcasts earlier, like we were like, this is great, like this is no
who
big
cares?
deal, like everyone's just gonna be kissing babies, shaking hands, loving on each other, you know. And it makes sense because I feel like for what we do, we were doing that. We were, we're always getting, obviously if it's coming soon, we're obviously in Connecticut, we have the coming soon. So we were doing that, but yeah, no, we loved it. We thought it was great.
And so
But
Nicole, but then, well, wait, there's more. Nicole, who does a lot of work with investors, house flippers, her and I both take on new developments where, a developer or an investor or a builder wants their product to be shown off oftentimes even before the unit, the house, the project is complete.
Well, stories. Everybody loves telling stories.
Yeah, to story tell to the
videos.
consumer.
Right, yeah.
Let the consumer know the journey that we're on so that they become interested, so they become intrigued, so that they tell their friend,
Invested,
so that
yeah.
you can build an email list, so you can build interest ahead of time so that you're not just waiting for the final nail to go into the condo or whatever it is. And so Nicole said, this could cause a problem if we're going to follow the rules, which, Kathy, we're going to follow all the rules.
Always.
So in that specific area, and this doesn't apply to everybody, certainly, if you're an agent or a broker watching this that doesn't do any new construction, this may not apply to you now. It may in the future. This is going to be a smaller segment. We know most of the transactions in most MLSs are resale properties, which are, a typical single-family home that was, being marketed now again for the second time. It's not new, or the third time or the fourth time, a resale property. But in this specific situation, are we living in a gray area? What is the solution to market for builders, investors, flippers, and tell the story to the public as we approach the project being completed?
So it is definitely a gray area because the vast majority of what we deal with are resale properties and stuff that is on the market right away. It's not the 10, 12-month lead time on new construction,
Right.
or the 2, 3, 4-month lead time on flipping. And then your take on flipping and the way you do things is even more unique and interesting and tells a definite story, and gets it out there. So we don't really have hard and fast rules with it. So the black and white answer is that it can't be done, right? That it's out there marketing and it could cause someone to reach out and contact you, and then you double end the transaction and get 100% and just sort of keep everything for yourself.
Yeah.
And
that's what you're trying to eliminate.
And that's what we're trying to eliminate. We want the general public to know, so it doesn't matter who their agent is, they know about 100% of the market area, because the last thing we want there to be is any fair housing information to come out or anything like that. The story aspect of your piece changes the dynamic of the rule a little bit differently and how it can come on. And if your seller goes to you and says, hey, I don't want it on the MLS for whatever reason, we can't force a seller to put it on the MLS. We've got a form we have them sign and say, hey, these are the benefits of going on the MLS. It reaches over 18,000 people. It goes to these websites. It does this, and it's to your benefit. And they can sign off knowing they want to waive their right to that benefit. And they could put the listing in as a withheld listing on the MLS. And we require, when we enforce this rule, when we brought this rule into fruition last spring, we created a new section on the website for withheld listings. So they put a check mark in the box. You see the listing as the agent, your manager sees the listing, and we see it as the MLS. So if someone's driving down the road, they see your sign in the road and they contact us, or they contact an agent, right?
Right.
They can then call us and be like, oh yeah, we know about that property, and we can put the two forces together outside of the public purview.
So and just to clarify, in that situation, so you're saying if the seller is asking the agent to withdraw it, instead of the agent saying, hey, we're going to keep this off, I'm going to try and find someone on my own, that's obviously against the, yeah. But if the seller says, I want to keep this off and sign the form, you can go about it that way.
Yep.
Okay.
So it would be against the realtor code of ethics if you
Of course.
encourage people to keep it off. But if they've got reasons to not put it on the MLS, then it's their right to not have to put it on the MLS. So it goes on the MLS whatever day your contract goes into effect. We start counting market time at that point, because at some point the seller might want to put it on the market and they might not want to, right? So they might say, oh, maybe this was the wrong thing. I had one the other day. I want to change my withheld back to active. We require it to be off the MLS for 30 days so that there's not just that little in-between period of time that they really know what they want to do. And anyone that doesn't want their house on the MLS doesn't really care if it's for 30 days, 40 days, 60 days, because they just don't want it on the MLS.
Question though, and again, now we're going a little micro here, so I apologize. But so you're saying you want it off for 30 days, but there's the 2-week coming soon rule.
Which is a different rule, yep.
So can you take it off for 2 weeks and then do coming soon 2 weeks?
So it would be the 30 days withheld, then you could do 2 weeks after that as coming soon. The coming soon rule is what most people use, right?
Yeah,
it
right.
gives them the opportunity when you're doing a coming soon listing, you could advertise the daylights out of it. It shows up on the MLS.
Right.
People can schedule appointments for whatever day that go live date is.
Right.
So withheld is a maximum of 30 days? Is
No,
that
it's a minimum of 30
It's a
days.
minimum of 30 days, and there has to be a 30-day gap, or no?
No,
Okay,
the
I
30 days
misunderstood
on
that.
the 31st day.
Yeah, I
it can go
misunderstood too.
on.
Okay.
It can go on. So it's got to be on withheld for at least 30 days. You could, in our case here in Connecticut, remember this is not for every MLS, but for our case in Connecticut, we have a 2-week coming soon period. So you could do withheld for 31 days, coming soon for 14 days,
Yep.
live MLS everywhere the next day.
Right.
Does that come in as, we had the question, is that then new? Does it come on?
So a coming soon listing comes on as new, right? On the 14th, and it's a maximum of 14 days. You can choose 3 days, 5 days, 7 days,
Right.
12 days, 14 days. A lot of people choose that 14 day, but life changes, right?
Right.
So the seller might not be ready. You can't shorten a coming soon listing because you've
I've-
told the world everywhere.
I've tried that once before. I'm like, wait a minute, it was supposed to go on tomorrow. And it was, yeah, that was fun.
And then on the 14th day, so we always encourage people to do less.
Right.
If you think 14, do 12. If you think 12, do 10. Give yourself an adjustment period there
Right.
for whatever might come down the road. But you can't do 14 and come to 7 because the whole world's expecting it on
In 14 days, yeah.
Right? But you can go 7 and we'll let you go out to 14. You can go 12 and you can go out to 14, but you can't go out to 15.
Okay.
Right? So the seller has to kind of know what they're getting into and be explained the process.
So to recap here, just quickly, because I like the black and white. You went black and white. I like that.
No, but I think it's helpful to give like real life situations.
Yeah, in
too.
the real life situation. But black and white, no, you cannot do this pre-marketing phase where you tell the story unless the seller wants the listing withheld. Now, you mentioned our code of ethics there, and all National Association of Realtor agents have their code of ethics. And I think you said there that we could not really try to get the seller to do this withheld situation to benefit us. Now, if you are sitting in front of a developer and you're talking strategy and they want to know strategy from the pre-sale phase to the on-market phase all the way to the closeout of the project. You know, if it's a developer, they've got a huge timeline there and they don't really make any money till the end. So, you know, they're concerned about the whole entire timeline. Can I explain to them unprovoked the two scenarios of a withheld listing or do I need to keep that quiet unless they ask the specific question?
Well, I think new construction in general is different than resale.
I agree.
And there's MLSs out there, and this rule's fresh and new and brand new to everyone. So getting the nuances of things, different MLSs are going to do things differently. So some MLSs are going to even carve out new construction because traditionally you've got that time period, that pre-marketing time period that everyone's used to, the signs in the ground that looks as, you know, empty land, and this is what it's going to be.
Right.
And they want to get that information out there. So under a clear cooperation, that listing has to be in the MLS, but they might not even know what's going to go on that property. So there's no way to price it. There's no information there. So we at SmartMLS, we don't have a rule. We haven't really run into it yet. But doing what you guys are doing and talking and communicating about is going to cause people to have opinions about it. And then we encourage people to then reach out to each of their MLSs to say, hey, what about this idea? Because everybody's not going to think of everything and have special carve-outs for different circumstances. So I think new construction would be handled slightly differently because you don't know. You can't price what you don't know. It's impossible. So to go out there, you could put it on, you know, once you do know the different types of houses that are on there, we allow you to put in a spec house for each property type or each classification of property you have, or the different offerings, and not put everything in. So we already have special rules for new construction, so we'll probably look into adapting some of our rules.
Yeah, and to your point, that's all this is about. I'll be the first to admit, these things are about to fall, by the way. We are going we're usually, well, actually, we haven't even been in the other studio in a while, Nicole, because we've done I was in Florida,
so bad
we're here.
last episode about.
We were complaining about the rackets.
Yeah.
We don't have tax. Nobody has tax anymore. I went and asked all our neighbors.
Well,
I was
Byron
asking for
complains,
sugar.
why do we even have paper clips?
Well,
But paper clips are much more important.
I agree. We need tax now. Look at this. This is such a racket.
It's
This is the
such a
biggest
racket.
racket. This is a non-traditional show. We're not going through the rackets, so we didn't even need the
No.
rackets. We're focusing all on this. But yeah, so this is really a conversation, and I think that's what, as agents, we need to have more conversations about the changes, because the changes are coming quick in our industry. They're not going to stop, by the way. Certainly not with all of the money pouring into the industry. That's a whole nother conversation. We'd love to talk to you about that more in the future. But we need to keep having these healthy conversations, not beating people up like Kathy in whatever real estate forum or Facebook group that you're in. Have the conversation so that we can all learn, figure out the rules, and then move forward and actually protect our industry. Right. So
wait, but before we move on, because I know you're itching to move on. I guess the only two things that I would like.
Are you still fuzzy on this?
I'm not fuzzy on it, but but we also had a little bit of a conversation before we started this. But I think where you and I should at least go back to is sort of what we were talking about in the last podcast, just to answer those questions, because you thought it was don't do an address. And I thought, hey, if I'm the owner, I'm covered.
And Kathy was like, hey, you weren't really right on that. And I'm the first to admit I've been wrong on a lot of things in this show. But yeah, that was me kind of just throwing out a scenario.
Right. So I guess just to
that's
clarify
not really
for those, because we also talked about taking a photo while your photographer is there. Obviously, if you have a listing agreement already, you're covered if it's incoming soon.
If it's incoming soon. So, I mean, you explain it, Kathy, really, and you explained it before we started the show, that if you're putting out marketing that can come directly back to you as the agent for a specific property, even not putting on an address, but you are saying this is a new listing. Mm-hmm. I'm here, I'm at my new listing, and somebody could watch that on an Instagram story, and they could see a tour of the house.
And
hey,
I've
here's
gotten
a tour
that
of my
before, and
house.
I've asked agent like, "Oh, where is that?" They're like, "Well, it's going to be on MLS in 2 days." So that was sort of breaking the rules, because she's advertising it but not disclosing address, but then it goes under contract. Yeah.
No.
Hopefully she's watching.
Add a little bit of color to that. Are we?
So yeah, there's lots of instances where that happens. Or now we've got photographers going out and taking pictures and announcing the listing for, here I'm at 127 Ajax. Here, there's a new listing coming up.
To brand ABC photography.
Right, to brand ABC photography, and then saying who the listing agent was. So
Right.
it's not the listing agent giving the marketing. It's
That's
the
very
photographer.
distracting. I know, I'm sorry about that.
It's the photographer doing it for them, right?
Right.
So all those things, we just want the consumer to be able to, whatever the consumer sees at a property is for sale, for them to be able to contact their
It's coming down. It's coming down.
This is really important stuff.
This is important stuff. We're turning this whole conversation into a racket. If you're listening, go watch if you listen to the podcast, go watch the video. This whole thing turned into a total racket. Turn it down.
Okay. Sorry. So keep going.
So we want we want to be the gold standard of the data. We want the
Right.
real estate professional to look professional 100% of the time.
Not like we are with rackets
Not
on
with
our wall.
Our rackets here, it's just a little bit of different professionalism going on, right? So they need to look professional, and they have to be able to answer their clients' questions. And if the information is not in the system, in the database that everyone belongs to, and everyone says, hey, we're going to join, we're going to put all of our 100% of our information in, because when each broker joined 100 years ago, they said, we're going to put all of our information in, and we're going to be able to get all the information out. So it was fragmented before, and we're bringing that all together. And then we've got to figure out ways to how to handle the creative market. We don't want to stifle innovation, because if we do, someone else from the outside, one of those disruptors or the money that's flowing into the system, might fill that void. Mm-hmm. So we've got to be very cognizant of everything that's going on, but make it as fair of a marketplace as possible.
Yeah. All right. So to recap, number one, when you're listing a property for a seller, the clear cooperation rule. If it's going on for the public, it needs to go on for all of the agents. That's the NAR standard.
Well,
That's
yeah,
the new rule.
within
To
24 hours.
Within 24
of
hours.
something being
So with
posted.
the NAR policy, it'll be 24 hours. In SmartMLS in Connecticut, it's at the same time.
At
Same
the
time.
same time here in Connecticut. So two differences there. Now here in Connecticut, to get into this specific situation that we're talking about, the only way you can market a property ahead of time is if it's withheld from the MLS for the seller's benefit, and the seller wants to do that.
Correct. And then what happens when it comes on the market, it starts with the days on market from the time it was advertised, because it's days on market, not days on MLS.
Right.
So if it was advertised for 45 days before, when it hits the market, it'll be day 46.
Day 46. Yeah. And I actually don't even know. Put it in the comments if you think that really hurts a seller. I mean, the seller is going to make that decision for themselves, and it's going to be a specific situation like we're talking about.
I think the only time that someone would have a problem, and I think we asked this before too, because once it goes from withdrawn to active, does it go on the hot sheet as back on the market, or does it go on the hot sheet as new listing? Because I think that most people are, especially my sellers in this situation, are mostly concerned with it going on as like new.
Yeah.
They're okay with the 150 days, but as long as it's going on as new and not like back on market or, you know.
Although, I mean, I would argue, especially today, as we sit here in the, what I would call the spring here in February of 2020, it feels like the spring right now, that if you're listing a resale property, this would be a bad move for any seller.
No, I'm not even talking about
and-
that. I'm just talking. I mean, we're talking specifically about an investor, or
developers,
builder.
yeah.
Because I mean, again, as much as you want to do that before, you also want to celebrate the fact that like it's here. But, like,
yeah,
it's
there's a lot of
because
value
you're
in
building
the story.
up. Yeah, I mean that's the whole reason that you're doing a withdrawn, especially for a builder or an investor, because you are telling the story leading up to it going on the market. So you're actually spending hopefully a little bit less time having to tell the story after.
Yeah.
And you know, and you're kind of doing it. In
There's
the
so
front
much
end.
brand equity. We've got a really good table. Did you do this table?
One of my
Swab,
team members
swab,
did.
Somebody
throw the
team
table.
They're a really good table. We're going to link that up.
Yes.
Because not only is this here for any Connecticut agent that's a member of the SmartMLS, but you said nationally this table's been used in a lot of MLSs, right? Bright, are they one of them? They're one of the
I don't
biggest
know. Bright
MLSs,
uses it's
right?
been in the Realtor magazine articles. Has been in a bunch of other publications with the Council of MLSs.
Yeah. People
We'll
just
link-
need to start reading. They need to start. And I love that you're here too, because I think it shows that you're not trying to hide. You're super accessible if you hound.
She made it work.
I'm kidding.
She made it work. I love
no,
that.
I think again, like you said before, if you have specific questions on something,
We'll link
you're-
up the article that we've been referencing the last couple episodes. We've linked this up 3 times for you. We'll link it up
Linked
again.
We're linking it.
This is the article from Realtor Mag, how we found Kathy, because she leads the article off with her comment, or quote rather, have you ever received an inquiry about a property for sale but couldn't find it on the MLS? And that's really the foundation
Essence, yeah.
of this rule,
Right.
right? All right, I got a couple quick questions for you before we sign off, since we have you here.
Of course.
Mergers, MLS mergers. I believe the number, maybe you know the exact number, somewhere around a couple years ago, maybe, I don't know, less than 5 years ago, there was about 900 or a high 800 number of MLSs, and we're down to the low 600s nationally. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Has this been a good thing for MLSs?
I think it's a great thing for MLSs. So we worked for years to bring together Greater Fairfield County MLS and Connecticut Multiple Listing Service, again, to service the consumer. In Guilford, you weren't as heavily impacted, but there was that line, right, where Milford, Stratford, Southbury, Danbury, where consumer had to get 2 searches, right? One from the GFCM side and one from the CTMLS side. And you can go to any of the third-party sites and get 1 search. So the consumer doesn't care about what's going on behind the scenes.
Right.
They want what they want, and someone's going to fill that void if we can't fill it for us. So it was essential. We can deliver a higher level of service. I'd rather spend all my time competing, making Smart as best as it can be, because I'm going to stop short of being nothing but the best.
I love the name too. Smart.
You like
Did you
it?
come up with that? I like the name.
I can't take full credit for the name.
Take the
but,
credit.
Ooh,
Take the credit here,
well, you're
Kathy.
behind it. I take credit wherever I
Yeah,
can.
she'll
He
take
never
credit,
gives it
even if
out.
it's not due. She'll take it. I love the name.
Thank you.
It's a great name. Who's still sitting out in Connecticut?
So
Greenwich?
there's Greenwich, Darien, and New Canaan that each have their own individual MLSs. So
Yeah.
there's 4 MLSs in Connecticut instead of 5, and we've got We cooperate really well with them. Most of the members in Darien and New Canaan also belong to SmartMLS, and about half of Greenwich's members.
Total racket, by the way. If you're a Connecticut agent, you know that's a total racket. I'm calling racket on Greenwich, Darien, and New Canaan having their own MLSs. I mean, Connecticut's a small enough state. We should have one MLS.
In essence, we do today, but there's, for whatever reason, it works for them, and it's not me to tell them otherwise, but we try to cooperate as much as we can with each other.
That's smart. That's smart.
This is why people say Connecticut's so old school. You guys are old school out there. What's wrong with you guys? But I think it's working well. I like our MLS doing a great job. Thank you for that. Question number 2 on this little added bonus question round. What's the future of MLS?
Future of MLS. So I think
more
the future,
consolidation, whatever it is.
There's probably more consolidation around the industry. Probably not so much in Connecticut. There's probably more cooperation in the industry as well with states like Rhode Island, Massachusetts, stuff, people that border it. But you get into more issues when you're cross state lines, licensing issue wise. And we've got great relationships with everyone around our surrounding areas, the states around us. And then there's still a lot of consolidation that has to happen in other areas. So we're sort of ahead of it. Connecticut being so small and bringing the 2 MLSs together, we don't have issues that other people have. But we've got to become the gold standard for the data. So everyone that loves our little compliance notices, we do it to help. I know sometimes you get too many. We try to hone our rules. As to what it is, but being that gold standard, the data's out there in a whole bunch of different places, and if the square footage is wrong, and some people are comparing above grade and adding the below grade to the above grade, it just doesn't make us look professional. It doesn't keep everybody on the same playing field, making sure things are done in a timely fashion, marking listings as off the market because a deposit's been taken. So let your fellow other agent know that there's something going on with this property. So I just had a guy yesterday call, more than upset, an elderly couple. It takes a lot of effort to get the husband out of the house, extra family members to walk him up to the door. He gets there, they go to put an offer in, and the property's already under deposit. Yeah. So just communication amongst each other to not have a leg up, to keep the cooperation in putting your listings in, but even marking information properly just goes a long way with the whole professionalism with the industry.
Great. Kathy, thank you so much for spending some
Thank
time with us. I definitely want to have you back at some point this
year. We're
year.
going to have so many questions more.
Maybe you'll be, I don't know, TF might come back on, so you might be the second person to come back. But you're only the third guest. I mean, that's like a little...
It's amazing.
We'll give you one of these rackets that almost fell on your head. You can take that as a prize.
She may own the office if it fell on her head.
If you're looking for more information on the clear cooperation rule, we're going to link up this table. It's a one-page table. Really, really good and organized. It reminds me of like something Vanessa, my sister, would do for us on our media team, but this looks really good. Kathy, anything you want to add? Anything that we should be talking about as agents, or any parting shots you want to leave with?
No, it's great. I think the last 2 web podcasts were awesome, the way they explain things, and I'm glad you guys do it in an open and lively format, right? Instead of shooting the messenger to come out and just ask questions. I'm always happy.
Thank you. Any questions about this rule? Put them into the comments, please. Any feedback for SmartMLS, we can send that off to you, right? You wouldn't mind if we send you some information there? We can talk about it next week, whatever it may be. Please.
We'll definitely have you back for May, because it's.
Oh yeah.
I mean, obviously Connecticut. It sounds like Connecticut's already ahead, but for the rest.
But Kathy's going to be in the game. She's going to know what's going on nationally, so we can bring that to you. We got a new friend here, and Kathy, thank you again.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. See you guys next week. Keep it real.
Bye, guys.